happens, praying that it happens, encouraging others to do it, I'm going to do it. So how to develop that kind of love? I'm going to enable all beings to have happiness and its cause, meaning all beings, not just the few. That is, of course, an incredibly vast. That's an unimaginable level of love, isn't it? Don't you think?
Yeah.
It's just to think that way for the people in this room, to think, how wonderful if I'm going to enable all of the people in this room to have happiness and its cause, to really feel that from the depths of one's heart. So difficult. So then for all beings, that's the love we're trying to achieve. On the way to that, we develop another kind of love, which is not to be confused with this higher one, if you like. The one we are now developing in these earlier meditations is what's called affectionate love. I don't know what the Tibetan term is, but in English they translated it as affectionate love. Meaning, we get to the point through the analysis of especially the first 3 points, we're just about to go into the third one, of repaying the kindness of the mothers. But if we do these 3 points, it said that you develop a strong sense of affectionate love. Then you can develop this sense of affection. Meaning, when you see other beings, or when you just think about others, you have this sense of affection towards them. You don't feel any kind of antagonism. You don't feel just neutral. You feel affectionate, like a mother feels towards her child. There's that level of affection also. You just feel good and very positive and kindly, and warm whenever you observe any kind of sentient being at all. So here we're first developing that affectionate love. So the Lama makes it very clear several times. It's this affectionate love we need to develop strongly, which will help us to develop the great compassion, wishing them to be free of their suffering. Of course, this is one aspect. There are other things to meditate on as well, but this is a very powerful one. Then, together with that great compassion will come this higher level of love, wishing, taking responsibility to make everyone happy and have the causes of happiness.
What is the best way?
Huh?
From our present...
this way, the one that we're discussing.
What is the way of making others happier?
Well, that's another question. That's a question of skillful means. Let's first develop the wish to do it wholeheartedly. We're maybe jumping the gun by thinking how we're going to make others happy. But of course, there are, as you can imagine, there are material ways and there are spiritual ways and so forth. But it all depends on our courage and on our attitude. And according to all of these great beings, doing it step by step. If we haven't got the earlier steps strong, we cannot develop a powerful enough affectionate love, which will then transform into, compassion, great compassion, bodhicitta. So let's look at what the Lama says about repaying the kindness. As I said, I have to go at 12, and then Venerable Samten will, maybe some meditation and some discussion might be something to do. Now, and there needs to be a short break also before that for tea. I haven't forgotten tea, since I so greatly wish for your happiness and mine. You also brought something in your hand when you came in?
Yeah.
What's that?
A bit of cake. Yeah, cake.
For our happiness. It's very kind.
Mine.
See, there are kind people all over, not just your mothers, but everyone. And that's the point of this third point, is how will we repay? How to settle up, in a sense, with all this kindness we've received from our mothers since beginningless time. So I'm afraid something small and temporary, like a good dinner, is not going to be enough. Something like a small bit of cake now and again is not going to be enough. Of course, it's a very good start. It's a very kind start. So repayment in full, the Lama says, would be to provide them with everlasting happiness and permanent freedom from samsaric suffering. Is this possible or not? It is. If it is, you will want to do it. So this is how compassion, love, and bodhicitta can be produced from this repayment mindset. I don't know that I like that phrase very much, but anyway, it's saying if you really develop the state of mind where you feel strongly to offer back to others, then yeah, it can be produced. first we have to see the benefits. And in the Guru Puja, a very famous text, practiced in our tradition, it says, having seen that the door, the gateway to all good qualities, is the thought to place all of our cherished mothers in happiness, even if others rise up as my enemy, may I be blessed to cherish them more than my life. So, if we recognize all sentient beings have been our kind mother, we will find them so dear that we want to help them and give them happiness. And this kind of spontaneous loving attitude will make all of our actions virtuous. And once we have this attitude genuinely, the teachings say even if the whole world were to get together as our enemy, we would not see them as an enemy. We would just have more compassion for them. If we had this kind of mindset, we would just have love and compassion for them, because we would know that they are suffering from a kind of mental illness for them to behave in this way towards us. And then we would just want them to be happy. We would feel even more compassion for them. So when we focus, the Lama says, on I, mine, me, my property, etc., we try to dominate external things as much as possible. And whenever somebody actually says, no one in the world is more important than me, that's not the issue. This is the kind of thought that is governing most sentient beings. Self-cherishing leads us to do selfish actions. Whoever, husband, wife, parents, children, between families, towns, countries even. Misery and suffering can make us so crazy that we attack others. So when Buddhist yogis see others acting this way, they think, what can I do to help them? That's the thought they have. So, there's so much commentary here, and really there's no substitute for looking at this and reflecting on this. But first, the Lama's discussing how to stop negative tendencies arising in the mind, which make us not think about repaying others' kindness. Then he says you need to think about how all sentient beings are born and die due to the power of karma. How we are so caught up in that. We don't recognize each other as being each other's loving parents and children and so forth. We just don't understand that at all. So if we do have some understanding of that, then we realize everyone's in big trouble and we only want to help them. We see them undergoing deep misery of birth, sickness, old age, death, and so forth. We just want to help them. So a person who has no gratitude for the kindness shown to him or her is shameless. If we ignore our mother sentient beings, forget their kindness, just try to get out of this situation of samsara ourselves, then we're the most disgraceful kind of person. If we think about this properly, eventually we'll have an almost spontaneous appreciation of others' pure kindness, of their past kindness, and a respectful desire to repay it. There's nothing more shameful, Chandra Gomin says, than working just for your own liberation. If you recognize but ignore those who are reborn again and again, your dear relatives who have fallen into the deep samsaric ocean and are tossed about by the strong currents of suffering. So the point here is to really consider how people close to us first deserve their kindness to be repaid. If we just think in general, it's not going to work. We have to start with people like the mother, people in life who've been kind to me, think about them, then go to people who are more neutral, think about their kindness. And this is also a vast meditation, because as we often do in our motivations here at Tushita, reflecting on how others have been kind, countless ways, everything that we use and enjoy and wear and watch and listen to comes through the efforts of others. Then we see how much we owe to sentient beings, So then when we think about this, how can I just think about my own happiness when others have been so kind to me and they're also suffering? How could I just think about my own happiness? I must care about it. I must do something for them. The mind will not, the Lama says, conform to this way of thinking right away. It's used to running wild, because we didn't meet with spiritual teachers or these instructions in most of our past lives. So this time, which might be the first time, trying to train the mind will be like taming a wild elephant. It may take a long time, but it's possible. A child in his mother's lap is not able to do anything for himself, again says this great teacher Chandra Gomin. He drinks milk that flows due to his mother's love. He depends upon her love, which persists despite many hardships. Who, even of the most reprehensible classes, could abandon her and be happy? He's saying even, thieves, robbers, other people like that could not abandon their mothers after such kindness. We have to realize how up to now we've been under the influence of ego, self-cherishing mind. But here we have to think about how others have helped us, and that working only for my own liberation is very shameful, and also not actually delivering the goods. I've been working for my own happiness since beginning this time, according to Lord Buddha. Where has it got me? How happy am I now? After having worked for countless lives, just largely for myself, for my own ends, in a selfish way. Where has it got me? Where has it got me? We need to think about this. Tsongkhapa, this great Lama, whose text we look at a lot in our tradition, explains how we should think about repaying the kindness of others. Imagine your dear mother has gone crazy or blind and is wandering along a dangerous road. Perhaps she is walking towards a cliff where one wrong step could result in a terrible plunge downwards. Who should she be able to rely upon in that situation? If you, her beloved child, are able to lead her to safety, it's your responsibility to do so. It is right in every way that you should help her in this time of need. All sentient beings are in a similar situation. Because of the mental afflictions, their minds don't function normally. It's as if they are sickened by a disease or a drug. Not only are they mentally ill, they are blind. Ignorance prevents them seeing their situation properly. They don't see the danger they're in. They cannot see what's right. So every day of their life is spent in great peril, walking towards great peril. After death, something very dreadful will occur because they didn't see where they were going. So there's no one to lead them in the proper direction. So if there was someone who could help them, it might be okay, but there isn't. And they are in imminent danger of falling into a lower rebirth. A yogi sees the state of affairs very clearly and strongly desires to do something to help these mother sentient beings. So we can become a leader of sentient beings. So more and more we need to develop these kind of thoughts. What do they mean by a yogi here? It doesn't mean someone who just sits up in a mountain. We might think a yogi is someone who has renounced the world completely and sits up in a mountain. Well, that is of course great, That is of course a very high level of yogi. But we are a yogi, according to this, if we reflect deeply and properly, analyze deeply and properly this path. Then we become like a yogi who joins their mind to the practice. That's what yogi means. Yog is to join one's mind with the practice, with the path. I think you better have some tea now. So 11:46. Yeah, you can start. Yeah, okay. Short question.
One of the yoga, I think, means training the mind.
Means to join the mind, but it is connected with mind training, yeah.
While we are working compassion, we see the suffering of others. Sometimes when the suffering is very intense of someone, you could lose your equanimity and start suffering. Now that's idiot compassion, right?
If
I mean,
you
how do
then
you
suffer a
balance
lot.
yourself? How do you maintain equanimity while empathizing and praying or trying to help somebody who's suffering very greatly? It could be physically, mentally.
Well, of course, it depends on one's all-round development. Some people are very emotional. They just look at some small suffering and they go gaga.
Emotional.
You know, so that's not the way. We have to develop a certain stability of mind. That's why we do several different kinds of practices. Not just, we don't spend our whole life just doing compassion practice in the beginning. That would be too much. We have to stabilize the mind. We have to make it calm. We have to, have an all-round view of things. We have to see how things are changing, so we don't go berserk when we see suffering, because we realize also this is an impermanent situation based on a temporary causes, conditions of delusion, karma, and different triggers happening. So that's why people are suffering. It's just due to causes, conditions. There's nothing inherent about it. So there's no need to freak out in
Panic.
that sense. Yeah, it's like don't panic. Of course,
There's a
usually,
parachute.
huh?
There's a parachute to jump out.
Kind of, yeah. The parachute is one's wisdom, one's skillful means, one's deep conviction that oneself and this person who's going through such a hard time, they have Buddha nature. Simply temporary causes, conditions are creating this big mess. Often it seems like some inherent, long-lasting big mess, but nothing is like that. Things change. Things have the potential to change. Plus, one realizes by going gaga oneself, it's not helping the situation. You're just creating problems for yourself. I really need a quick cup of tea. If someone could just pour me a tea before I go. And then all of you have a break, have some cake, and then be ready by 12, just after, for some meditation and discussions.